our whole shtick from a business model perspective was, hey, turn on the lights, get the audience, do what's right for the customer. Get a massive audience, and then figure out how to create a business model around having that audience. And it turns out we're only kind of 3% down the road on that journey of figuring it out, which, makes it fun.
Business casual.
The housing market is confusing and has felt kind of bonkers lately. We saw 2 years of skyrocketing prices where it has felt nearly impossible to buy your first home or any home unless you're super rich. But where do we stand now? Are things getting back to normal? Well, according to Zillow's chief economist, Skylar Olson, quote, "The housing market is still far from a return to normal conditions, and the current slowdown is prompted by the collision of extreme price growth during the early and mid-pandemic with the sudden increase in mortgage rates since December." Well, that doesn't help us feel any better. So what does this mean for you if you're a prospective home buyer? Will you ever be able to buy a home? We got the scoop from Rich Barton, the co-founder and CEO of Zillow. He offered what he thinks are some solutions to the housing crisis and his view on what the future of real estate and home buying will look like. And he knows a thing or two about getting ahead of and setting trends. The way he sees it, Zillow, quote, "turned on the lights in the room" in the real estate business, allowing the home buying process to become digital for really the first time when it launched its site in 2006. Another thing that impacts how and where people live, the future of work. Zillow is adopting what it calls a cloud HQ model, where employees are all able to work remotely. And Rich knows a thing or two about work and workplaces because he co-founded the job review and recruiting site Glassdoor and is also the founder of travel site Expedia. So basically, he knows things. And he shared a bunch of that knowledge with us on this truly enlightening episode. That is next after the break. If you're a returning listener, or even a newer listener, you know that we are big fans, actually huge fans, of making sure you have the right tools to invest wisely. Real Vision's new investing course will give you the tools and foundational know-how to be a smarter and more confident investor. You get the inside scoop on how the world's best investors think, execute trades, and manage their positions. You also learn how to tailor their advice to suit your portfolio. Real Vision is offering Business Casual listeners an exclusive discount on this new investing course, plus full access to their Plus membership tier with daily content. Sign up and get started at realvision.com/businesscasual. That's realvision.com/businesscasual. All right, Rich, hello. Welcome to Business Casual.
Hey, Nora, how are you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm in a great mood. So, Rich, we're very excited to have you on Business Casual. A lot of topics to get to, the future of work, the future of the home. But let's start with a little icebreaker. It's called Professional Pet Peeves. So,
Okay.
Rich, you've worked in a lot of different office environments, interacted with a lot of people in your career. Don't get nervous. So
Okay,
if you could, if you could just, I'll give you time to think about it. So if you could just wave a magic wand and get rid of something that people do at work or don't do at work that you find annoying, that you could get rid of, what would that be? What is your professional pet peeve? And I can give you examples if you need.
Pet peeve. I'm kind of a word person. Grammar stuff bugs me. Here's kind of a verbal tick pet peeve.
Okay.
Am I making sense, Nora? Am I making sense? That one. When people say, does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm like, what you're worried about me understanding what you're trying to say? If it doesn't make sense, I will tell you it doesn't make sense and ask you to say it again, maybe in another way that will make sense to poor little me. Anyway, that is something that bugs me a little bit. I realize that's not a big thing. Work has not been like work for the last few years, has it? So I'm actually struggling for real world examples. I have some, digital ones, but anyway.
Yeah, no, digital ones are good too. We had someone say that they just really dislike after hours Slacks because we see that a lot, obviously, right? I think there might be even more workplace pet peeves in the hybrid world. There's just so many more ways to communicate with each other.
Yeah, I think a lot of things that people might say are pet peeves, like a pet dog or cat or a child wandering through the screen or whatever, I think might annoy a lot of people. in my case, I kind of love that. I love
Yes.
I love getting a little window into people's real lives, and
Me too.
Anyway, I like that.
Me too. All right. Well, Rich, like I said, you have an incredible career. You founded Expedia, you co-founded Glassdoor, you co-founded Zillow, of which you're currently CEO. Do you ever think you'll reach a point where you're going to stop? Aren't you tired, Rich? You're still chugging along. How? How?
Nora, I'm so hurt right now. You've been around so long. How could you possibly have any more energy? Here's the thing. I love what I do. I love building cool stuff for people with teams of people, and using technology and ideas to change the world. I really, really love that. I hope there's never a time when I don't want to be doing that stuff. I'll tell you one thing that's got me super duper energized right now, which I know we're gonna talk about, though, is the workplace itself is being reinvented right now post-COVID. It's kind of like the Big Bang, and we're trying to figure out what 9.8 meters per second squared, which is gravity, gravity acceleration. We're trying to figure all out the kind of the early physics right after the Big Bang. We're all inventing that together. So I'm super excited about that.
That's a great analogy, because it really does feel like such a fundamental shift. It's not like incremental changes. We're all totally reimagining what work can look like. So Zillow is being described as a cloud headquartered company. What does that mean exactly, and what excites you about it?
Yeah, I call it Cloud HQ. Everybody wants to say remote work or something like that. I actually hate the term remote work. Isn't remote just a terrible word? I mean, who really wants to be remote all the time? We're social creatures, right? And it also kind of implies we're never going to get together, which is completely wrong. And so I prefer, I coined the term Cloud HQ. I don't know, we coined it. I don't know who came up with it. Shortly after COVID hit. So this is like summer of 2020. And the reason I like it is because it implies a kind of new office space, a new workspace, the norms of which, the tools of which, the ways which we work are going to be reinvented in the cloud. And it's not like we're just going to take the stuff from physical world and put it into the cloud. It's actually we're going to invent things new. And it also implies that, hey, convention, what we call Zillow retreats, like getting together and being with people and socializing and team building and just getting to know your compatriots, that absolutely still happens. But then we kind of go back to the cloud and we get things done way more efficiently.
What does this mean in practice? Does that mean just more choice for the workers, for employees to decide when they want to get together, when they want to be in the office, and when they want to work from home?
It does imply a lot more choice, but if we can all rewind our brains a little bit back to summer of 2020 or spring of 2020, when everybody was really scared and trying to figure out what was going on and were we ever going to come back to the office or whatever. And if you may remember a lot of companies doing what I call the hokey pokey. You put your left foot in, you put your left foot out. Anyway, you spin, turn it all about. Anyway, the hokey pokey is kind of changing your mind and zigzagging on people all the time. And that's what was going on. Hey, we're going to be back by the end of the spring. We're going to be back in the summer. And what this ended up doing was taking employees and basically making them not be able to plan their lives. Mm-hmm. Okay, but my lease in New York City is coming up in September. Yeah. Can I let that lapse and go move back near my sick mom in Cincinnati? And the company would say, I don't know, you got to be on call, you got to be ready to come back to the office. So anyway, we made a really smart decision. It was controversial at the time, but a really smart decision in hindsight. It kind of got lucky to say, no, look, let your lease expire. Go live your life, move where you need to move. We're obviously working well together here in Cloud HQ. We will make it work no matter what on the other end. So that's what that means. That's what it means to me.
Yeah, and uncertainty is the enemy. If you don't know what decision your employer is going to make next week, a month from now, a few months from now, then that just upends your life. Why was it controversial at the time? Because, obviously everyone's opinions have fluctuated a lot during the pandemic, but at the time that you first made this decision, what was the pushback?
I mean, it's a big, culture decisions are really hard, But what was controversial was a major wholesale change in culture and the way we work. And this base assumption pre-COVID that you needed to fly out for the interview to Seattle, have the interview. You're going to move to Seattle if you take the job or one of our other offices. And work meant you were going to be at work. And this was with the kind of what seems like a small decision was a major cultural decision to say, no, look, this flexible thing, this Cloud HQ, it has some drawbacks, but it feels like the future of work. All my spidey sense was tingling. Like, this feels like the future of work. It was kind of accelerating pre-existing trends like COVID did to so many different things. And so we kind of leadership team, we kind of held hands and we jumped. And we said, all right, go ahead and move. We'll make it work on the other end. And then we had a whole bunch of really interesting we were there very thoughtful very quickly about some basic norms, the basic kind of rules of engagement in the cloud world, which are fun too.
What are some of those basic rules of engagement?
I won't take credit for inventing it because I don't think I did. It may have been Matt Mullenweg over at Automatic, which is WordPress, who, his company, I don't know if you're familiar with that company, he's a really interesting guy, by the way. His company has always been, actually, he calls it remote. Like, they've never had any offices, and it's global and it's all over the world. So he kind of wrote a bunch of the rules ahead of time and was really terrific in giving us a bunch of advice. I remember having him on a all company Zoom really early in the pandemic, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this guy's the Oracle." Anyway, one of those little mnemonics was I call OZAZ.
Okay.
Care to guess?
No clue what OZAZ could stand
OZAZ,
for.
O-Z-A-Z. I like Z's, as you can tell. O-Z-A-Z, OZAZ. One Zoom, all Zoom.
Okay. What does that mean?
Okay, one Zoom, all Zoom means that if even one person in the meeting that has more than 3 or 4 people in it, if even one person is not present and together, everybody scatters and zooms in. So that everybody's on a level playing field. Everybody gets a rectangle. Everybody gets a name tag. It's not a 2-class system. The people in the room who are the decision makers and get all the airtime, and the people out of the room who feel like, hey, hello, I'm here. Can I make a point? Anyway, that's kind of the history of having people on the phone outside of headquarters. And so OZAZ was a very controversial rule as well. My friends at Microsoft would rather I say OTAT, one teams, all teams. But that were one teams, all teams works too. That was a pretty controversial one that I had to push pretty hard on.
Yeah, and it puts everyone on an equal playing field, so you don't feel like if you're the one who happens to be able to be in the room, then you have a louder voice. And I think that also translates to the hiring process, too. If you allow people to work from anywhere, then I imagine you're getting more representative candidates. You're being more inclusive in the hiring process. Can you sort of talk to how this creates, this Cloud HQ model creates more access for different kinds of employees?
Yeah, I mean, it just dramatically widens the net that we can throw to cast for talent, right? Mm-hmm. We used to be able to only get people within, N miles of where we had an office, or someone who was willing to move to Seattle or to San Francisco or wherever we had an office. This actually casts a much wider net, so way more inclusive. Mm-hmm. It makes the recruiting process super duper easy, as I was saying before. Because of that wider net, of course, we were able to embrace all kinds of new geographies, which naturally made us more diverse. Okay, we dramatically moved the needle on all of our diversity metrics, which is, you can say, is that good thing because it's just a good thing and the right thing to do? Well, yes, there's some of that, but it's good business. Like having a more diverse workforce in what we do, and I think everything, by the way, is just good business. Well, first, our customers are everyone, and everyone is diverse. Okay, and so we need to design and service those, design products for and service those customers with a diverse workforce. We're going to do it a better job. But beyond that, we're able to, I would say capitalism, a fundamental tenet of capitalism and success in capitalism is inclusivity. The more people you can include in the market, the better and healthier the market gets. And so being able to cast a wider net and be much more inclusive is just a strong business proposition.
Even the little things, to your point about making it easier to interview for a job, not having to travel there. I remember having to take days off of work to go interview for other jobs, and then you end up having to lie to your current employer or pretend that you're sick. Yeah, it just feels wrong. And you as an employee should feel empowered to find the job that's right for you and make a switch when you want to make that switch. So you have written about this larger untethering of your location, where you live, from where you work, and how it's so important to the future of work and life. And by implication, this impacts the housing market. Yeah. So what is the impact so far that you've seen on the housing market, where people can choose to live and it's not necessarily exactly where they work?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see, we have seen an acceleration and a trend towards what I would call labor dispersion. Okay, we're just going to see more dispersion in where people call home, because as more companies offer more flexible work, like Zillow and Cloud HQ, we're going to see more people actually taking the option to live somewhere that is not necessarily in or near an urban center, and so. We coined the term early in the pandemic when just the housing market started to go crazy, just crazy in terms of numbers of transactions and people shopping and using Zillow and going to houses and transacting houses. Just you think, oh, that market should stop because people were worried about getting sick. No, it actually went crazy because everybody was looking for a new home. Everybody was completely reassessing what home meant, and home was serving as a gym and an office, and not just a place to sleep and to have your dog or your family or what have you. And so people were becoming dissatisfied with their homes and were anxiously looking for elsewhere. Everybody started to lift up their eyes and look around and see what other ways and places they might live. That is absolutely continuing today.
A lot more flexibility, a lot more freedom, a lot to discuss on the housing market, the future of housing, but we're going to take a very quick break. More with Rich when we come back. Today's episode of Business Casual is sponsored by Electric. Is subpar IT support holding your company and your profits back? Let Electric be the IT spark your company needs. With lightning-fast, chat-based tech support, Electric is helping small and medium businesses save 50% on IT with a whopping 105% ROI. Electric integrates into Slack and Microsoft Teams, so the help you need is just a click away. Bonus time. If you're an IT decision maker at a company with 10 to 500 employees, Electric will gift you a free Yeti cooler when you take a qualified meeting with them. Schedule your demo at electric.ai/businesscasual. That's electric.ai/businesscasual. So, Rich, I want to back up a little bit. We all know Zillow, but I want to provide a little bit of context, for our listeners who may not have used it before. You've said that the Zillow brand has become synonymous with real estate empowerment, but quote, the fundamental transaction continued to be painfully stuck in the 1950s, resisting the gravity of digitization. So our expanded dream is to re-engineer, streamline, and digitize the moving process. For people... Beautiful. You wrote that, Rich.
I did, actually. I did. Maybe Chrissy did. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I love that.
Being wowed by your own words. That's great. So for people who haven't actually used Zillow through the home buying process, how has Zillow changed home buying since you founded it?
God, it's like we turned on the lights in the room. We let there be light. That might be a little grand. Many of your listeners won't even remember what life in the real estate shopping industry was like before Zillow came along and turned on the lights. But it was a dark, scary place full of creepy crawlies and people hiding things.
What was it like? Can you actually explain to our listeners who you're right, probably haven't experienced the housing market pre-Zillow?
Literally, there were no listings on the web. You couldn't search for what's for sale. You couldn't get addresses. You couldn't get prices. You had to I don't want to be too hard on the industry, but the industry had a good thing going where they protected all this information. And if you needed any information about how many bedrooms, what was for sale, what the price was, you either had to walk by it on the street and see a sign I'm not kidding. and there used to be these little containers that had flyers under the for sale signs in a house neighborhood, and that's where you could get the details on what it was for sale for. Other than that, you had to call somebody. Anyway, you think I'm exaggerating? I'm not. And so I literally, my co-founder Lloyd Frink and I had just finished. We had done Expedia, which we turned on the lights in travel. By the way, it's the same idea. There's nothing new under the sun. We turned on the lights in the travel industry, which was exciting and empowering. And we were having kids and shopping for homes, and we couldn't believe how hard it was to get basic information. And this was in oh my God, this was in 2005. 2006, which sounds like a long time ago. I mean, it was before the iPhone, put it that way, okay? There was no iPhone. There was no mobile web. Anyway, we were building spreadsheets and trying to grab data to figure out what homes were worth because we were having babies and we needed a new house. And we were like, oh my God, we have to do this in real estate too. We have to turn on the lights. So that's Zillow's fundamental thing was to basically democratize access to information and give power to the people. We say power to the people a lot. And in empowering the people to figure out how to end up building a marketplace that worked much more efficiently and fairly. That was our project that we began 16 years ago, and we've only just begun. We have everybody come to Zillow. You were saying we have a trusted brand that everybody knows, which is true. Make fun of it on Saturday Night Live. I don't know if you saw that Saturday Night Live spoof that we had, which was so fantastic.
I need a new fantasy.
Then you need Zillow.
Like that's the pinnacle for anybody who builds a product is to be spoofed on Saturday Night Live. Anyway, we were spoofed, which was fantastic. But and we had 200 million people a month come to our sites and apps, and yet we only have, I don't know, this is video. This is some video. I'm holding up 3. We only have 3% transaction share is what we've monetized so far.
Oh.
We get everybody. We only monetize 3%. So what keeps me really excited is we have all this immense growth opportunity to fundamentally really now begin to change the guts of the industry and really digitize it and make it way simpler for everybody out there who's listening, who's gone through this process or maybe going through this process in the future. Our job is to be your digital quarterback. We want, it's going to be a long-term thing, but we want to be able to make it easy for you and your partner and your professional partners as well to monitor and take step by step as you walk over that bridge to that new place to live. That's what we're building. Yeah.
That stat that you're only monetizing 3% of transactions on Zillow or in the housing market?
3% of housing transactions. That's the revenues we have, and we're a pretty good sized public company. We're a big company, but it's a huge industry. Yeah. And so we only actually have figured out our whole shtick from a business model perspective was, hey, turn on the lights, get the audience, do what's right for the customer. Get a massive audience and then figure out how to create a business model around having that audience. And it turns out we're only kind of 3% down the road on that journey of figuring it out, which, makes it fun.
So what does growth mean then? Because the opportunity is clearly there. I know you have a partnership with Opendoor, which is perhaps, Zillow's re-entry into iBuying. So let's talk about Opendoor a little bit. First, just explain in very basic terms what iBuying is and then what this partnership with Opendoor now allows you to do.
Yeah, I mean, iBuying is a relatively new thing that hit the scene. I mean, there's been an industry of local cash buyers for your house for a long time. But Historically, it had a little bit of a predatory feel to it. Like take advantage of somebody in a bad position. So that industry before Opendoor came along really didn't have a fantastic reputation. But Opendoor came along and said, look, if we can do this at scale, we can do it in a way that really just offers a cash offer as a service and isn't trying to be predatory. We played around at Zillow for a couple of years trying to be a primary in that business ourselves, which meant we were buying and selling homes. But it just turned out our business and risk profile and the size of the opportunity we had outside of iBuying just wasn't set up well to have us owning a bunch of homes and keeping them on our balance sheet. So we recently we exited that business, and we recently did a great deal with Opendoor, where all of the millions of sellers that we know are coming to Zillow app and Trulia app, many of them may be interested in getting a cash offer for the markets where Opendoor operates. And so now, through this partnership, we offer a really deep integration for an Opendoor cash offer as an option for sellers. And then Zillow has an option to provide for the ones who don't. Most people will not take a cash offer, and so they'll sell traditionally. And so we can offer a whole bunch of our partner services for those movers. So it's really it's kind of a peanut butter and chocolate partnership opportunity for us.
So you're clearly trying to make the whole experience a little less painless for both buyers and sellers, but the housing market does, especially now, feel quite painful, especially for, Gen Z and millennials, first-time home buyers. There's a recent survey from YouGov that found that most members of the Gen Z and millennial generations, that's U.S. adults between the ages of 18 to 25 and 26 to 41, they do want to own a home someday or even right now, but their biggest roadblock is affordability. Nearly 3/4 of American adults still view home ownership as a top hallmark of achieving the so-called American dream. People want to buy houses, but it feels a little bit impossible right now. Is there a specific way that Zillow is trying to cater to these younger generations and demographics who are prospective homeowners, who are digital natives and they grew up with technology? They grew up only knowing Zillow. How are you catering to those folks?
We're really interested in first-time buyers and have great empathy for how difficult it has become for the first-time buyer in the kind of post-COVID housing market, COVID and post-COVID housing market, where we've seen affordability, worsen. It's mortgage rates have gone up a lot and house prices have gone up a lot, which is a pretty bad combination if you're shopping for your first home. Home ownership has been the greatest source of wealth creation for everyday Americans. North of 60% of Americans, families, own a home, and a preponderance of household net worth is tied up in the equity of home, which is a fantastic place to actually have that. And so the big step is getting into the first home. All right. And so this is just a matter of, life happening and you taking the leap. Like there's a point that comes when you have the first kid or the second kid or whatever it is, and you have a dog and maybe you need a yard, and you just say, all right, I know it's difficult, but I'm going to do what I can to take the next step. And that involves getting a down payment together. So you have to have saved, you have to have your credit score in good shape. And then something we're really focused on at Zillow right now is helping you get the right financing, get pre-approved and get a mortgage so that you can go shopping and you can have confidence that you can afford what you're looking for. And so, we have a real interest in helping people do that. We do recognize it's become a little bit more difficult in the near term. However, the great thing about capitalism is that supply and demand end up doing their own thing. Okay, they do their thing, and when we have a lot of demand for homes, and yet we don't seem to have enough homes on the market, that will correct itself over time. I would encourage all of you out there to pressure our governmental leaders, mostly on a local basis, to make it easier for more housing to be built. Which means we got to have cities go more vertical, and we've got to kind of relax zoning laws. The final thought I'll have here, and then I'll shut up, Nora, is that a wonderful thing about flexible work in Cloud HQ for the relatively smallish percent of the work population that are information workers that actually can work flexibly. It enables us to look a little bit further out, right? And so when we look a little bit further out from urban cores and suburban, suburbs, we're actually able to afford a lot more home. And so we are actually seeing, a lot of that going on, which helps with affordability.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your optimism in believing in the supply-demand dynamics will shake out. They do. Yeah. It might take a while in this case, but there's so many forces right now where, for example, people are looking at homes as an investment. So if you're, wealthier, you might buy up more homes as an investment. You might not necessarily need them to live in, so you're reducing the supply. And then, there's people who are buying homes to rent out on Airbnb as a source of passive income. What are your thoughts on people sort of buying homes as investments when they are taking the supply away from those who might need it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding and a little bit of a boogeyman thing going on with this particular narrative, because the really large majority of people who buy homes for investment reasons are renting them out to people. Okay? So it's not actually taking homes away from people and families to live in. It's just providing a way to get in via a rental. Okay, and the rent versus buy market tends to be pretty darn efficient. And when it becomes more efficient to actually be an owner than a renter, then that begins to really happen. And I think we're actually in one of those periods now, because rents have actually grown even more quickly than housing prices. And so we're kind of see that now. On the Airbnb thing, I think that's got to be just a little bit of noise.
Sliver,
yeah. And by the way, not a bad thing. Not a bad thing to have people actually traveling around and interacting with the world in different places, and I mean, I'm a big fan of travel, and I think that, of course, there are some neighborhood dynamics or building dynamics where too many Airbnbs are in a building and people are loud. I mean, there are those kinds of problems. But in general, I think we are better as a species when we interact with a lot more different people.
Yes, I could not agree more with that. So we're, seeing a lot of different entrepreneurs and business people trying to tackle the housing crisis and housing issues. And one of them, of course, is Adam Neumann, the infamous founder of WeWork. He's now building Flow. Just got, a $350 million investment from A16Z. And that aim is to address housing availability. There's community considerations. It plans to operate more than 3,000 apartments that Neumann acquired. Blah, blah, blah. It's, a lot of stuff that Adam Neumann is trying to tackle. But availability of housing, as we've been talking about, is clearly a big issue. Maybe Adam Neumann is not going to solve it, but what do you think will fundamentally help ease the housing crisis and make homes more accessible to more people? You mentioned things like, zoning and just reaching out to local politicians so that they're working on it. But what do you think is going to really help solve this issue? Well,
I know Adam, and I think Adam is an extraordinary guy, interestingly, he's actually where I am in Long Island right now. He's actually a neighbor, so I know him a little bit, and I see him a little bit.
Okay.
I really like. He's just truly an extraordinarily interesting, thoughtful, and charismatic guy. Controversial. I get it. The idea that Adam is doing with Flow is something that is being done already, though Adam, I'm sure, will put his new spin on it. Anyway, we can stop talking about that. The solution is more capacity, Nora, more housing capacity, okay? We need to be able to build more homes and more apartments. And pretty much anything that enables that is a positive. And there are, in pretty much all cases, the locals who are in the areas where that wants to happen don't want that to happen. They think it will depress the value of their asset. And so they're just defending their asset, generally speaking. So we as a society And through our government, we need to actually say, hey, no, this is a social need. Look around. I live in Seattle. For those who live in San Francisco or LA, we have real homeless issues. Just look around. We need more housing. And so, we as a company at Zillow do a whole lot of stuff socially to support the kind of public policy that will build more housing. And I believe so should you, the listeners.
All right. We went over a lot in that answer.
Yeah, we can edit
that's
it
really
down.
Great. No, I love it. A lot of good nuggets in there.
Okay.
All right, let's take another very quick break. More with Rich when we return. The future seems pretty cool, right? All of those amazing new inventions that are going to make life way better. Like, wouldn't it be great if your car could change color to match your mood or even match your outfit? Buick is thinking about the future every day. A future built around you. A future with super smart Buick electric vehicles that can make life even better, and soothing, spa-like interiors that can leave you feeling relaxed and refreshed. Learn more about how Buick is thinking about the future at buick.com/future. That's buick.com/future. Okay, Rich, let's get to some of the fun stuff. So you had alluded to Zillow being spoofed on SNL. There's, Zillow surfing became popularized during the pandemic. Taylor Lorenz wrote a piece for the New York Times called Zillow Surfing is the escape we all need right now. There's Zillow Gone Wild. The Twitter account has 300,000 followers. The Instagram account has 1.6 million followers. Is that at the end of the day good for Zillow? What do you make of this, social phenomenon, the cultural phenomenon of Zillow?
Oh my Lord, I'm tickled. I'm completely tickled. Lloyd and I made up the word, and now it's a verb. It's really, really wonderful when you create something that really catches, okay? And maybe that's happening with you in your podcast right now. I think it is, right? So when you've done something and it really catches, that feeling you get, it's pretty difficult to describe, right? So I'm completely tickled, and I've been lucky to be a part of several interesting fun things like that. But this is I think Zillow is a particularly big one, which is fun. So anyway,
it's fun to dream, right?
Yeah.
It's you're not just making it easier for people to buy and sell homes, but you're allowing people to aspire to what they could have in the future. And I personally follow those accounts. I've Zillow surfed before just to see. You just want to check. In this location, if I happen to move there, can I afford this home?
I really think it's fantastic. I'll tell you something. The headline in the San Francisco Chronicle in 2006 when we launched, and there really was a San Francisco Chronicle in print then. The headline in the business section, it wasn't the front page, when we launched, a brand new startup, top above the fold, was real estate porn. Or Zillow launches real estate porn. Okay, so
wow.
it was obvious to people, even on the night we actually, the site went, there's so many people showed up the first day, the site went down for 36 hours, and I remember being curled up in a ball on the couch of our CTO, who's still our CTO, David, saying, make the pain stop.
But that's good, right? It's too much traffic is better than not enough.
That actually is exactly. Amy Botinsky was our marketing chief at the time, and she's like, "Don't worry, we're gonna make lemonade out of this one. Don't worry." And the headlines the next day were, "So popular, tips over." It was good. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Well, Rich, we have a fun segment for you. Gonna exercise your brain a little bit. It's for a segment called Shoot Your Shot. So I would love to know, shoot your shot. You've accomplished a lot, started a bunch of very successful companies, but what, if there still is one, what is your wildest ambition and your biggest dream? What is your moonshot idea? It could be personal, it could be work related, it could be world related. It's your chance, Rich, to shoot your shot. So go ahead.
All right. Hey, Nora, I've been lucky that I've actually been on the moon a couple times already. I really have, and I'm super grateful for that. I really am, and I credit the team of people that are with me for being able to have that feeling. What I dream about now from a Moonshot perspective, this digital integration, this kind of housing super app dream that we have at Zillow, which is a really long-term thing that we're dreaming about, is going to be super hard. It's such a snarl of an industry with so many moving parts and so many hungry mouths and so many regulators and so many things to sign. And anyway, like if we can help really, I call it the chasm of despair. We're building a bridge for people over the chasm of despair. And where they are now is the current place they live. And on the other side, it's sunny and beautiful and a nice garden. And we want to keep them above the snakes and cacti and crocodiles and get them over. And that's what, I think if we can do that, that would make me very happy. Yeah.
Well, Rich, is there a personal moonshot you have? Because it's all been work related so far. Anything for your own? Do you want to go physically to the moon? Maybe that's
no. I don't. And I have friends who've done the International Space Station thing, and they're so exciting. I have one friend who's gone there twice, Charles Simone. It's just wild.
That's such a funny flex. I have friends who have gone to space.
He was one of the first guys, and then he went back. On a Russian rocket, and he called me from space, Nora.
No.
Okay.
What?
I'm not kidding. This is a while ago. I had a Nokia
I didn't know you
phone.
could do that. What?
This was pre-smartphone. Okay, I've got a Nokia. It was a
Nokia. You were
triple tap text.
playing Snake on your Nokia.
Seriously. This was I'm dating myself. This was a long time ago. But I'm sitting there. We had started Zillow, I think. So it's early. This must have been like 2006 or 7. And I get a call from an unknown number on my Nokia, flip phone, whatever it is. It wasn't a flip. It was just a phone. And I normally wouldn't answer an unknown number, but I answered it. And Charles was like, Rich, it's Charles. I'm like, what? What? I saw you blast off into space. Like, yes, I'm at the International Space Station. I'm like, I grabbed everybody that was in the office, and there were only like 8 of us at that point. We all huddled around the Nokia phone and chatted with Charles. No, I don't want to do that. I don't need it. I don't need to do that personally. Here's the thing, Nora. You get, like, I believe that the happiness equation is. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm taking notes.
Something to do. Mm-hmm. Someone to love. Something to hope for.
Wow.
Something to do. Someone to love. Something to hope for.
Wow.
And you're happy. Okay. As you age and you have a family, and I don't know if you have a family, but I've got grown kids. The something to do, I've got nailed. Someone to love, I've got a lot to love. I'm really lucky. Your hopes actually get transferred from yourself kind of onto your kids as you move through life. And so my hopes and dreams are now for my 3 fantastic, awesome children who are very different people who I love a lot. And I don't need to, I don't want to put pressure on them or anything, but I have great hopes. Yeah.
That's beautiful. You hope through their eyes. That's wonderful.
All
awesome.
Right.
Well, Rich, we will leave things there. This was so fun. Thank you for joining us on Business Casual.
Thanks a lot, Nora. Great to be here.
This is Business Casual, and I'm Nora Ali. You can follow me on Twitter at Nora K. Ali, and I would love to hear from you. If you have ideas for episodes, comments and thoughts on episodes you loved, fun segment ideas, just shoot me a DM and I will do my very best to respond. You can also reach the BC team by emailing businesscasual@morningbrew.com or call us. That number is 862-295-1135. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to Business Casual on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And if you like the show, please leave us a rating and a review. It really, really helps us. Business Casual is produced by Catherine Millsop and Olivia Mead. Additional production, sound design, and mixing by Daniel Marcus, with help in this episode from Griffin Jennings. Kate Brandt is our fact checker. Sarah Singer is our VP of Multimedia. And music in this episode from Daniel Marcus and the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. Thanks for listening to Business Casual. I'm Nora Ali. Keep it business and keep it casual.
Business casual.
If you like what you saw and you like what you heard, you can listen to the entire episode of this podcast, Business Casual, anywhere you get your podcasts. And please go ahead and subscribe to the Morning Brew YouTube channel and go ahead and click on that alarm bell, that thing right there, so you can be alerted anytime there's a new video.